Welcome back to the shop. Today we are going to be continuing our conversation about the KTM 790 Adventure R, and specifically today we're going to be talking about the off-road capabilities. Before we get started though, I just want to say a quick thank you to all of you for watching and following this series. I want to let you know that we have created a KTM 790 Adventure R playlist. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to do so. We'll be putting all of these videos in that playlist so that if you want to, you can go back at any time and play them all in sequence. For those of you waiting for GPS tutorial videos, for those of you waiting for Colorado towing videos, for those of you waiting for the Hoogland ride videos, be patient. Those are all still coming. So if you haven't, click the subscribe button, click the bell notification. That way you'll know when we upload these videos here on the 790 Adventure R, as well as those other videos that I just mentioned. So let's go ahead and get started into the off-road capabilities of the KTM 790 Adventure R. I had an opportunity to go out for another full day ride. I have now about 500 miles on the motorcycle, and the more I ride it, the more I enjoy this motorcycle. Everything about it that I've said in the previous videos continues to remain. I have no net new problems, although I did encounter one scenario that's just an advisory for people that are buying these bikes. When you fill them up, don't top them off. The overflow travels down the right hand of the motorcycle, and the outlet for the overflow is down in the front part of the skid plate. There are some holes that are supposed to allow it to drain out of the front of the motorcycle, but some of it does collect down in the skid plate. Now again, as someone else pointed out on social media, gasoline does not ignite via heat, it ignites via spark, so it should not be a fire concern. However, it is not the ideal situation, so just again, be sure you're not topping that tank off, or you might run into that. Other than that, I've had no further issues. I have no oil leaks, no coolant leaks, none of the other items that have been reported on the internet, at least so far. I will again continue to keep you guys updated in any of those areas should they change over time, so be sure to stay tuned. Now, as far as off-road capabilities, to really get a good feel for this motorcycle, I actually went for a day ride, which was more of gravel roads and fire road type conditions. Then at the end of that day, headed to a local ORV park so that I could specifically try this out in some truly off-road conditions. This particular ORV park has some decent sized hills. It has a mix of dirt, of sand, and of some gravel or rocky conditions. So it was a good all-around experience to have on this motorcycle and gave me a really good feel for what it will do. Bear in mind, given the on-road manners of this motorcycle, I have went down 2 clicks on the front for both compression and rebound, but I didn't notice that adversely affecting the off-road riding capabilities at all. So if you're having those choppy front end feels like I was having, try going down 2 clicks on each of those up front. It might help you out. It seems like it's set up really, really stiff from the manufacturer. And again, with it softened up 2 clicks on each of those, I did not experience any bottoming or anything that would cause me any concerns when I was riding in the off-road conditions. As you can tell, the conditions I rode in were extremely muddy. We've had a lot of rain here, and I do mean a lot of rain, and it was an absolute muddy mess. So the number one complaint that I had in this particular scenario, again, comes back to the tires. In this particular situation though, I'm not sure any ADV tires would have really handled it well. Once they fill up, obviously they become slicks, they lose traction both front and rear, and you are kind of sliding all over the place. But that highlights one of the key things that I think make this motorcycle so great in off-road situations, and that is the relatively low weight. Now I know the dual sport guys are going to claim it's still a big bike and it's extremely heavy, but relative to the 1090, 1290, 800, other 800s, other bikes in this class, this bike is relatively light for what it is, and it feels lighter than what it is because of the design of the motorcycle, and I found it extremely easy to ride in these off-road conditions that were really, really slick. I could stand up. The riding position standing up was very, very comfortable. I could scoot back, make sure the weight was off of the front wheel, and let it move around. And when it did go out, which I had a few occasions where the rear wheel would go all the way to full lock, it was very easy in that situation to just dab a foot on the opposite side, kick it back upright, and continue going. That is a particular scenario that I would not at all feel comfortable saving the bike on the 1090. In fact, given the weight and the risk of trapping your foot underneath, I would probably go ahead and let it fall over at that point just to avoid that risk. Whereas on this motorcycle in particular, I felt perfectly comfortable and confident dabbing that foot, kicking it back upright, and continuing along the way. So for those of you that are wondering whether or not this is better than those other bikes, and that again includes things like the 1090, the KTM 1290, the big BMW 1200s, it is night and day difference just because of that balance and where the weight is and how it feels while you're riding it. And it just gives you much more confidence to ride it fully on like it were a dirt bike, even though it is not. This is still an adventure bike. It does still weigh 460 pounds. So in those muddy conditions, it does tend to sink down more than a lighter weight bike would. That causes a little bit of a challenge, but if you stay on the throttle, you keep the front end light, it tracks very straight and true in most situations, again, until the mud completely coats the tires. And at that point in time, there's not a whole lot left you can do. But even when that happens, again, it's very, very manageable through weighting the pegs and through small inputs in the handlebars in conjunction with weighting the pegs. Now, the off-road park that I went to does have a motocross track, and I actually intended to ride it around that same motocross track because I've been out there before on my KTM 1090 Adventure R, which handled reasonably well given the size and weight of that motorcycle. I fully suspect that this one would handle even better. However, again, the ruts were so bad and the mud was so bad on that motocross track that I basically did not manage to get a full lap in. So I was hoping to get an experience of jumping this, you know, tabletops, things of that nature, not big doubles or anything motocross style, but at least some light, small jumps to get a feel for what the suspension would do. Unfortunately, I did not get that opportunity. So once it dries out a little bit, I'll be heading back there. And as I do that, again, I'll be providing you guys with an update on that. Given how stiff the forks felt on the road, I fully suspect that they will not bottom very easily unless you're doing something really extreme. So I have a high level of confidence in taking it out in those situations and those scenarios. I did have one small drop with the motorcycle. Now again, the ground was really soft, so it was on this right side here, and luckily it was a very soft fall, so this plastic handguard did hold up. It did not break the lever, but again, I'll be replacing those with aluminum wraparound because I fully anticipate that if it were drier conditions or if it were rocky conditions, that probably would have been the first thing to break, is the little end on the front brake lever up there. I've been continuing to run the motorcycle in full off-road mode with the off-road throttle response. I have not switched back to using the rally throttle response, especially in those muddy conditions. I just found it much easier to control with a little bit lighter throttle response on there. In drier conditions, I might try out the rally throttle response and see how that goes. The more I rode off-road, the more I absolutely love the adjustability in the traction control. Instead of just turning it off like I did on the KTM 1090 Adventure R, in here I leave it in the rally mode and I do dynamically adjust accordingly. And I really like that because in those muddier conditions, I can go to like a 5, but then if it's a little bit drier, I can go down to a 3. And that again just gives you a great deal of flexibility in terms of how much throttle is applied and what the angle is of the rear wheel and how much slip there is. I have not hit anything significantly hard with the gas tank or with the skid plates, so I cannot comment in terms of how well they will hold up to significant impacts. But again, with the small drop and things like that I've had no issues. The previous encounter that I had where I went over the logs and I high centered it on the skid plate, none of those have caused any damage to the motorcycle. So far, everything seems to be holding up really, really well. But again, if it changes, you'll be the first to know. But right now, I just really can't say enough good things about this motorcycle. I don't know if I'm ready to call it the unicorn that we're all wondering whether or not it is just yet. But I will say that in all of the scenarios, again, outside of the minor complaints of the tires and the seat, I have really thoroughly enjoyed this bike. The more I ride it, the more I like it, the more it reminds me of smaller bikes that I've had in the past. I do think at this point in time that KTM has delivered exactly what the market was asking for, and that was something like a KLR or a DRZ that was more exciting, better suspension, better brakes, better power, and more fun to ride. And honestly, I think this is the package. I'm extremely happy with the bike so far. Again, we'll see as I continue to put more miles on it. If I start to encounter any of those other issues that have been reported, I'll be sure to let you guys know. In the meantime, if you're interested in finding out more information or seeing pictures of this, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, KDE Motorsports. Be sure to check out our Facebook page, KDE Motorsports. Be sure to go to our website, kdemotorsports.com, and be sure to like and subscribe and share here. If you didn't like it for some reason, be sure to give it a thumbs down. If there are other aspects of this motorcycle that you would like to see covered in detail in subsequent videos, again, be sure to put those comments down below. We try to read and review and respond to as many of those comments as quickly as we possibly can, so keep them coming. Again, I just can't thank all of you enough. We are quickly approaching 2,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing for me personally. I know it's really small in YouTube terms, but that's much bigger than I ever expected this channel to get. So thank you to all of you. I sincerely appreciate all of you for watching, for liking, and for subscribing. So until next time, stay tuned, ride safe, and take care.